Welcome everybody to Mucho Chachala with Paula Leon. That's me. Today I have with me actor, writer, director, filmmaker, and a recent graduate of New York University, Isabella Uzcátegui. She has such a multicultural background that I just can't wait to talk to you guys about, ranging from Venezuela to Mexico and Panama. And her latest works include Even the Sun, 25, which was at the Tank, Mujer, a short film mentored by Bryce Dallas Howard. She is also a member of Theater Mitu, where she is currently producing a hybrid arts lab with Theater Mitu and creating her first narrative podcast. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Paula. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to talk to you.
I would say you're from so many countries. Like you've lived in many countries throughout South America, and I would just love to ask you a little bit about like your connection to Latinidad throughout every experience that you've been touching around.
I was born in Venezuela, in Caracas. That's where my parents are from. And when I started growing up, my dad moved around a lot because of his job. So I was very lucky enough to live in Guatemala, in Mexico, in Brazil, and Panama, a bunch of places. But when I was living in Panama, I finished my high school there, and I moved to New York to go to NYU. And I think it was so important for me to remember that I come from Latino roots, and also just important that I take with me every culture that I've lived in, because there's a different cuisine, a different way of speaking Spanish, a different culture, a different approach, music. And it was so important for me to take bits of everything that I lived in. And I carry that with me here in New York, because New York has a lot of Latinos, and the Latinx culture is just like, it permeates in art and food and everything. And it was important for me to carry it in the art that I make too,
And jumping off of that, because that's my next question, how do you feel that like your culture, or whether your combination of cultures, has affected and influenced your work?
It does all the time. And I think it comes from my body, because people see my body and they have a politics of perception, and they see who I am and my skin color and my hair and the way that I speak. And so I can't detach it, it's who I represent. As I navigate the field as an actor, I feel like I always wrestle with that, and I always take and give a little bit of that. And I always say, okay, this is who I am, but this is also the roles that I'm interested in. And these are the opportunities that I want to open up for myself. And I fight for that very, very strongly. But when it comes to like making my own work, that's more free. There's more freedom there, because I can say, okay, these are the things I'm questioning. These are the kind of collaborators I want in my room. When I did 25 in the Tank, it was an entirely Latinx cast, mostly women. Yeah. And from Brazil, from Venezuela, from Peru, from Chile, from Mexico, there were so many. And it was a trilingual piece. It had Spanish, English, and Portuguese. And that was what we were interrogating, having the Latina body and thinking, I have 2 languages, 3 languages in my body. What does that mean? So that's what I do when I make my own work. And when I'm cast in something, I always try to put my foot down when I don't want that.
What's your favorite Latinx dish, which is probably gonna be really hard?
It's really hard. So my Venezuelan roots want to say a good arepa. I always try to like tell my friends, teach them the food. And then Mexican, I love tacos. From Panama, a good fish with patacones. I don't know. There's like so many things. Pabellon, I love pabellon.
Where would you like to go visit in the world?
So many places. My sister right now lives in Spain, and I would love to go to Spain to visit her, because I don't know where she lives. I haven't been to where she lives, so I want to go visit her. I also want to go visit my cousin that lives in Australia. So those are the 2 places that come to mind.
What is your favorite / craziest superstition that you've ever heard?
There's so many superstitions, but I think, like, I don't know if this is one in the US, but like breaking the mirror, gives you bad luck for 7 years. That's a huge one. And I think that affects me, because I definitely broke a mirror when I was younger, and I heard the superstition.
What's a fun fact about, and you can pick whichever country, or you can pick 2 countries that you think people don't normally know?
Oh, well, so I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Panama for a very long time had a section of the country that was American land. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago, I would say, I think it was 1999, it got separated and became Panamanian land again. So you could be born in a certain part in Panama and be American. So Panama has a lot of American influence that way.
Vocabulary varies amongst Latinx countries, as you probably know, especially within Spanish across different countries. Have you ever had a moment where you got like lost in translation or something that you thought was very funny that was meant something completely different to you that it meant to the other person?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. Actually, my piece 25 is about that, is about like that dissonance between I have something to say, I don't know how to say it, which part of the Spanish should I go to, because there's many Spanish speaking countries have different ways of expressing things. I think it happens to me when I meet someone from a different Latin American country, let's say from Peru, and I start talking to them and they're from Peru, and I start getting like I'm confused about the expressions. Like they'll say something like mañas, and I'm like, what? What does that mean? And it's just a common expression like you get it, or like something like that. And then from English to Spanish all the time, I always have to think, is this the correct way of saying it? Because the roots sometimes match in different languages, but most of the time it happens to me when I meet someone from like Peru or Bolivia, places that I haven't been to, but I have like two friends from there.
I felt I had a lot of moments where like my Spanish doesn't match other people's Spanish, and I think it's so funny that you brought up like manjas.
Yeah.
It's because it's like I don't even think
Mhm.
about it. What do you wish to see more in terms of like your representation in the media and in the entertainment industry?
I think there needs to be a lot more representation of the Latinx community in film, theater, TV, anything that is art related. I think that just like Black bodies need to be represented more, I think Latinx bodies also need to be represented more in a way that is true to who they are and in a way that is true to the stories that we want to tell, not just like someone giving a story to something that is not necessarily who we are. And I think that it's very important that we as artists, also other Latinos and Latinas, really get together and make that happen. Of course, we want other people to support us, but we also have the stories and we also should write and direct and create without fear, without anything holding us back, because it is so important and there's not a lot of representation. I recently read a statistic that it said that in Hollywood there's like not representation at all of Latinos, and that's very important to me, not only for Hollywood but for everything, even the stuff that I make back in Panama with my Panamanian collaborators should stand its ground to how we want to be represented. But I don't think we're there yet at all. So I think we have a lot of work to do.
So you have such an extensive list of amazing things that you've done. What is something that you're proud of at the moment?
At the moment, yeah. So during quarantine, I started writing more. I was writing before a lot for theater, but I started writing more for film, for TV, and also just regular prose. And I got together with a collaborator, and I'm doing my first narrative podcast. And I just love podcasts. I love anything that's just for the ears, music podcasts. And I'm writing my first narrative podcast, and it's all in Spanish. So it's been a very beautiful moment for me as an artist because I've been spending a lot of time doing content in English or bilingual content. And now it's my first time where I'm tackling only Spanish, And I feel like it's been opening my creativity in new ways.